Hey, what's up, everyone? Kino here, and I just watched the Wise Guy, David Chase and the Sopranos documentary that just came out on HBO. It premiered in New York like back in July, maybe it was like a premiere type thing, but this is the first time the general public gets to watch it. And I figured I would make a video just kind of talking about my reaction to it. Everyone was asking me like, are you going to do a video on the documentary? And I was like, it depends on what is in the documentary. Like, because if it's just like, your usual stuff that you could find in any interview, and I've done several videos talking about David Chase and talking about the other writers and talking about behind the scenes stuff on the show. So if it's all just information that I've already covered, then there's no point in me doing like an analysis or something on it. So instead, I figured I would just do a reaction like this. What's funny, I even made baked ziti. We sat down with some pasta, watched the documentary together just now, and checked it out. So I wanted to report on it and kind of tell you guys my thoughts on the documentary and if there's any like information out there. I definitely think you should go watch it. Like if you're a Sopranos fan, it's interesting. I would say that there's probably not really any new information that I didn't know already. I mean, little small stuff here and there, but there's not like some fundamental big reveal in the documentary. There is some information, and we'll get to that, but it's not like oh man, there's a big bombshell revelation. It's all stuff that's kind of out there. Again, you as a casual fan, depending on if you're watching this, whoever's watching this, you might not have heard all of this stuff before, but as someone who has dug into like every aspect of a show, watched almost every single interview that's out there, read books from people behind the scenes and stuff like that, a lot of this was stuff I was pretty familiar with, but it was still an entertaining documentary. They obviously they use clips from the show. It's a well-made documentary. I don't know the guy behind it. I don't know who the interviewer was. Alan Sepinwall and Matt Zoller are two TV critics who have interviewed David Chase a lot. They wrote a book on him. I have it back there called The Sopranos Sessions. But this is a different guy. So I don't know the backstory of who made this documentary. Although it seems to have HBO's blessing, which was a little bit weird because HBO it's obvious it's on HBO, so they're okay with it, and apparently they gave permission to use not only footage from the show but also the actors' audition tapes. I saw David Chase in an interview talking about how they had to get HBO's permission for that. And apparently they gave it, so they were okay with it. But there was some information in this documentary about how HBO kind of screwed over some people on the show. It's long been rumored, although I don't know if it was ever outright stated, but it's long been rumored that the reason season 6 is divided into 6A and 6B rather than being separate seasons, it's much longer than a normal season, and usually each season is only 13 episodes. But this one is like 21 episodes. And so the reason it isn't divided into 6 and 7 is because if they did a new season, they're contractually obligated to pay the actors more for the next season. So it's like, no, it's not a separate season. It's just two parts of the same season, which a lot of them disagreed with because there's a year-long gap between when 6A came out and 6B came out. So David outright in a documentary says, yeah, HBO was screwing them out of money. So I was surprised that they allowed that to be on the network, but good on HBO for not trying to cover it up. They're being honest with it. I was surprised in this documentary of how candid they were about some stuff. They had all the writers on this from who wrote on The Sopranos. Like they had Robin Green, and they had I'm blanking on his name right now. The guy who left Frank. Sorry, I gotta look it up right now. I'm literally blanking. I just watched it. let me see here. Frank Granzulli. Okay, sorry about that. They had Frank Granzulli. They had Terrence Winter, who obviously still has a great relationship with David Chase. They didn't have Matt Weiner, which I was a little bit like, ooh, why is Matt not on here? Carolyn Strauss, did you not let Matt be on this documentary because you hate him so much? But I don't know, who knows? But they had Robin Green. They didn't have Mitch Burgess either, but Mitch Burgess is Robin Green's husband. Maybe he just didn't want to be on there for some reason, or maybe he was just like, my wife can handle it. But they had Robin Green and Frank Granzulli, both who had sort of negative experiences on The Sopranos. Like, I mean, obviously they're professional. They enjoyed the work. They enjoyed the writing. However, they had personal problems with David Chase, and I talked about all of the personal drama behind David Chase and the other writers in my Sopranos writing room video. Go check that out if you want more of this type of information. But I mean, they agreed to be on the documentary about David Chase, so presumably they're okay with him. But they were candid about like the problems they had, and Robin, I don't know, man. They had this scene with her where they were Robin was like talking about all the mistakes she made on the show, and she sounded very remorseful. And I was like, damn, girl, like I don't think you should feel that bad. Like, again, I wasn't there, obviously. I can't comment on this, but from an outsider's point of view on all of this, it kind of sounded like, David didn't treat you super well. Like, yeah, you might have been annoying at times, but like, I don't know. I feel like a boss has a responsibility to kind of treat his workers like with some respect and not kind of like make them feel bad, even if they have to be fired. Like, I'm not saying David J shouldn't have fired her and Mitch if the writing wasn't good, but from what I've read, he kind of made this very kind of personal like thing that it almost seemed like she was kind of crying in a documentary about like all the mistakes she made with David and getting fired and how painful it was. And I was just like, damn, girl, like maybe she's just kind of torn up because she also got fired from Blue Bloods. Her and Mitch got let go after first season. I don't know how much they've been working on since then, but I was like, I don't know. But they were candid. They were candid about some of the problems that were on in that set, and they were also very candid about James Gandolfini's problems on the set. Now, they never outright talk about his drug addiction. They talk a little bit, like they hint to like some alcohol, substance abuse, but it went beyond that. And it was funny because not a few months ago, maybe it was last year or earlier this year sometime, someone wrote a book about James Gandolfini's problems, and the community responded very badly to it. They were like, how dare you write this? How dare you besmirch James Gandolfini's name? Which I didn't really feel that way, because I was just like, this has been known. It's been known he had a drug problem. It's been known that he didn't show up on set sometimes and other stuff like that. It doesn't make him a bad person. He's from everything we've read about him, he's an incredible human being. Everyone talks nice about James, but I didn't think it was this big secret that people were pissed off that they were talking about it. But they talk about it here in the documentary. So I mean, this is from the cast. The cast was talking about it. Chris Albrecht was talking about it. I'm glad that they allowed him on the documentary too. If you don't know, Chris had his own some controversies that made him have to leave HBO. So whoever set this up, I appreciated how candid this whole documentary was. Like, I expected it to be a little bit like, because it's on HBO, and again, I don't know if HBO was behind this documentary, but obviously they had to approve it in order for it to be released on their network. I expected them to kind of sweep a lot of stuff under the rug, and it would be like one of those interviews where it's just like, only talk about the good times and how great everything was and how lucky we are to be here. And there was a lot of that, sure, but they were pretty honest about some of the flaws. I mean, even little stuff like they talked about Chris Albrecht not understanding the episode College and not understanding why Tony had to kill that guy. You would think that he'd kind of want to be like, painting himself, now that the dust has settled, painting himself like, yeah, I was okay with it, we approved it. But no, he was pretty honest about like how he tried to convince David not to do it and stuff like that. So I found this documentary very open, which I appreciated. But like I said, overall, not really a lot of information that like I'd never heard before. There was little stuff here and there. I didn't know about some of the films that David Chase did when he was in college. Like I knew about the vampire one. I talked about that in my David Chase video. But he did like a softcore porno one time, which I thought was very funny. I wish, what's one thing, he talked about his wife a fair bit in this. He never talked about his daughter, which I've always wondered David Chase's thoughts on Hunter as a character. I know she's a minor character, but Matt Weiner has talked a lot about his casting of his own son as Glenn in Mad Men, and that was actually a very rich character, even though he's only in the show for a few episodes. Very important to the story and very fundamental. So I've never heard David really talk about casting his daughter as Meadow's friend Hunter, and like what the thought process was behind that. Was it just like, Meadow needs a friend and we'll cast my daughter? But I would have liked to have heard more about that. I would have liked it if she had been on the documentary, like talking about her experiences, talking about what it was like to have David Chase as a father. That would have been really cool. But yeah, it's there was a lot of stuff I wish we had heard more about. The beginning was kind of funny because it kind of speeds through David Chase's talking about his childhood, and they do this like kind of like effect where he starts one sentence and the next sentence starts playing midway through to kind of make it gives the appearance that he's talking a lot. And he even says that in the interview. He's like, I've been talking too much. I found that part kind of weird. I was like, why are you making it look like David Chase is rambling? Maybe it's because he was rambling, but I don't know. Yeah, overall, I mean, good documentary. I'd recommend it to anyone. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head if there's any other stuff. The last thing I guess I could talk about was they do talk about the ending of the Sopranos. Again, I don't know how much clearer like they can spell it out for you. In fact, there's a funny part in the documentary. It's not related to the ending, but David Chase talks about the two types of people who watch The Sopranos: the people who watch it as a serialized like drama, as like a piece of art, and the people who are like, yes, less yakking, more whacking. The guys who are just like, hell yeah, Tony Soprano's so badass. Like, I love mobsters. Hell yeah, I love it when he beats up these people. Like the brain dead idiots who watch this show. Like, the Sopranos community is great. Like, but there's two types of viewers in the community. There's like really dumb people, honestly, who are into this show, and people who like really appreciate it as a piece of art. So I thought that was funny, but he does talk about the finale, and again, everyone's kind of hinting at like, come on guys, like can't you put it together what it's supposed to be? And they do a stupid joke at the end where David Chase is like, okay, fine guys, I'll tell you what the finale means, and then it cuts to black right as it ends. So it's cute. Everyone's made that joke a million fucking times. Like, we get it. But yeah, overall, great documentary. I'd recommend it if you haven't seen it. I mean, it just came out today as I'm uploading this. Definitely recommend going to watch it. I'm not gonna do an analysis, probably. I mean, I don't know. I might watch it again just to kind of refresh myself and see like, is there anything I missed here? Is there any like big reveals? But I don't think it's really worth dedicating a video to being like, oh, here's why this person was cast, and it's like, it's just a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you could find if you just watch the interviews and listen to this kind of stuff. So either way though, thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more videos coming soon.